Gul Dukat shows up to Deep Space Nine with his gym bag. Deep Space Nine treats us to a romantic comedy starring Kira and Dukat. And Captain Sisko spends the entire episode trying to extract his foot from his mouth. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we are doing a review of Season 4, Episode 5, Indiscretion, with two very special guest writers, Toni Marberry and Jack Trevino. How you guys doing?
Hey.
How you doing?
All right.
Awesome.
Good to see you guys.
This episode was also directed by none other than LeVar Burton. So this is like an all-star cast and crew today. It's a good day, right? Good episode. Good fun.
Always fun to have LeVar Burton participate. He's a wealth of knowledge and just a nice all-around guy.
So before we get too deep into this, we do want to remind you to please make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Hit the bell icon for notifications, or the Gabriel bell icon for notifications. That's a Deep Space Nine deep cut. Also, Cirroc Lofton and I happen to be coordinating. Total coincidence. I'm wearing Abyssinian Kiosk, my shirt, the Sisko Kid. Cirroc is also wearing a shirt from Abyssinian Kiosk. What do both of these have in common? Cirroc's sister designs these and sells these on her website, Abyssinian Kiosk. We've got the website in the description box below of all of our videos, so please check it out. Get yourself some holiday gifts from Abyssinian Kiosk, from Cirroc's sister, Merone. All right, and now let's talk about Indiscretion, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. You know, I was telling you earlier before, Jack, before you joined us, I was saying how much this episode just really was well written. And as I was watching it, I was thinking of, the kind of work that you guys do and what you put into making this story. And really, my first question to you guys is where the impetus of the story kind of began for you. Where did it start for you?
I don't know. I like putting characters that are always at odds together, or they're like opposites. Like when we did Pitch for Deep Star Trek, we did like Troy and Worf. So, Kira and Dukat have this explosive background, but they're so similar in many ways that, we put them together, and then came up with the backstory of the daughter. It's what we pitched is slightly different the way they did it. They equated it to the Searchers, which I remember the movie. I saw it when I was a kid. I didn't see it so much until they said, "Hey, it's kind of like the Searchers," and then you're like, "Yeah, it kind of is." So we just kind of took that thing of putting them together, and the way we had it with the daughter was a little different, but we ran with it, and they really seemed to gravitate towards it.
Yeah, you guys created a character that was reused. That is also a rarity, where you create a character, and later on in the series, the writers bring back that one-off character. Did you have any thoughts or plans that it would be a character that would continue on in Deep Space Nine, or did you think, okay, they usually just do one-off things, kind of bottle episodes? Did you guys have an idea about that?
Well, I didn't. I know I was just reading what we sent to them because they gave us the parameters. I think Jack went to the story breakdown meetings, but when we end.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we might have lost her.
That was a good story too. Jack, do you want to pick up where she left off?
Well, at the time, I had a regular job for a research institute, and we went to a food show in Anaheim, and I told Robert Wolf that I was going to be there, and if I could come by and say hello. And he said, "Well, actually, you can come and sit in on the story break for Indiscretion." So I jumped at that chance.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down to the studio, and I was able to sit in with the writers, Ron Moore, Renee Echeverria, Robert Wolf, Ira. They were all in there, and then they had I think they had them interns was in there taking notes and stuff. So that was really interesting. To Ron Moore was not convinced that Kira would go off with Dukat. The
Oh, really?
reason we had provided. So I think he developed the idea that she really wanted to go find her former freedom fighter, Lauret Akram, I think was his name.
Right.
And that was okay with us. Toni just sent me a message. There was a power surge here. She lost the internet.
Oh, no way. Well, when she gets it back, she could just jump right back on, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good that they added a little motivation for Kira, because already we thought, boy, it's going to be kind of tough for Kira to join in on that. But when she has like a friend or somebody important there, then that certainly gives her that kind of motivation.
Right. They both needed their own rationale for why they were going to go, and because it was obvious she was not going to go to help him. That was just, she was kind of forced to do that because of the respective governments that were trying to cooperate.
Yeah, there's so many aspects of this story that I've liked. One of them is just the dialogue itself, and one of the things that they had in exchange when they were in the shuttle. I think Dukat was asking her the reason for why she was on this trip, and she mentioned, Lord Kanar, I think his name was, but as being her mentor and somebody that inspired her to join the revolution. And then we find out later that Dukat actually has the more personal reason for doing this, which he wasn't disclosing it. So I like the fact that you had Dukat dealing with this deep-seated personal guilt or issue of remorse for what he had done. Is that something that you had any kind of personal experience with, or that's something that inspired you to kind of talk about that subject?
Well, my parents divorced when I was rather young. I was like about 10, 11, 12 years old. And my father had remarried and had 2 daughters. And my brothers and I had only seen them one time. And my father died when I was fairly young. I was only 18. So I never really, kept in contact with him. But I had made an effort around that time that we were starting to pitch this, or when we started pitching to Next Generation, to try to find them. And I wondered what I would say, because we had a lot of resentment because of, the divorce and stuff. But they had nothing to do with it. And then I saw an episode, I think it was called Cardassians, if I'm not mistaken, about the children of the occupation left behind from relationships that had occurred between Cardassians and Bajorans. Mm-hmm. And that's when I thought maybe Dukat had a child out of wedlock. And so I was telling Toni about it, and I would tell my colleagues at work, that maybe he had this daughter that he was trying to find. And that this fellow at work, Dr. John Frangioni, looked at me and he says, yeah, when he finds her, he needs to kill her.
Right.
And I said, no, we can't do that. And then I said, well, wait a minute, but we can make the audience think he's going to do that. And so when Toni and I pitched the story to Renee Echeverria, we were going along. And then all of a sudden we threw that out because he said, what's he going to do when he finds her? And we said, he's going to kill her. And we heard silence. It sounded like his pen dropped on the desk or something. He's like, oh my God, I'm blown away. And then he said the same thing. We can't do that, but we can make the audience think, as long as the audience believes that he's going to kill her, then you establish what you're supposed to do. And Cirroc, you were mentioning about the writing. We have to give credit to Nicholas Correa. He wrote the teleplay and he was, he did a lot of television shows, and he was with the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, wow. Nice. With the slow walking away song. I love that show.
Probably.
It was like that slow walking away song when he'd walk away all dejected. And anyway, at
And
the end of
we had
every
hoped,
episode.
I mentioned we had hoped, Mark Alemo might be on because he was friends with Nicholas Correa. So I was wanting to ask Mark if he thought that Nicholas had written any of those lines, especially for Mark's character, because Mark, I remember reading in an article that he really enjoyed this, getting out of his villainous and you saw another side of Dukat. We saw a lot of sides of Dukat that we had never seen before.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I put that in my notes was, not to jump too far ahead, but at the very end, the very final scene in line was probably the first time we actually saw some genuineness and some earnestness from Dukat. Like it wasn't like, fake seriousness or sarcasm or something that was like oozing with subtext. He was just being genuine and saying, I'll let you know, like he's going to keep in touch with her. Like they shared some kind of moment or bond. And that was the first bit of humanity, for lack of a better term, that we've seen in Dukat.
Oh, I would just actually kind of slightly disagree with that, Ryan. I think.
All right, I'm ready. Here, this is Cirroc always likes to take me down with his Star Trek knowledge.
No, not much knowledge, but specifically with this episode, I think that the first time that Dukat shows some humanity is in the scene that's actually behind you when he sits on. I
thought you were going to say that.
Yeah, when he sits on that sharp object and it gets stuck in his butt. And Kira, and Kira does this really marvelous laugh, and she says, it looks funny from here. And I thought that moment when they shared that laugh, I thought, okay, this is
You're
kind
right.
of like a bond right here. This is a moment where they can laugh about something. They can share this moment together.
Yeah, you're so right. He goes, "This isn't funny," and she goes, "It is from this angle." And he says, "It's funny. It doesn't work." And the whole time she's laughing her ass off, and she says, "You have to activate it." And he goes, "Oh," like total rom-com. I was like, this is a scene of a romantic comedy. Obviously, it kind of goes in a different direction, but that was a romantic comedy scene where the two enemies. And I was thinking, and this is for everybody listening in to please chime in on this. If this were a romantic comedy with Kira and Dukat, what would the title be? I was thinking maybe like Mortal Frenemies, but I'm like, I don't know if that works. So let us know in the comments, everybody down below and in the live chat, what would a good title be for a romantic comedy between Kira and Dukat? I think there'll be good names there. Anyway.
That was kind of the beginning moment for me of them kind of reaching an understanding. But one of the things that jumped out for me, guys, is as I was watching this, there's a moment there for me where I thought about some of the founding fathers here in America and how they had these kinds of extramarital relationships and
right.
Specifically, children with slaves and out of wedlock and these multiracial children that were kind of abandoned. Is that something that crossed your mind at all when you were kind of writing this stuff out?
Gosh, that was like in the 90s. I want to say, I live in San Antonio, so we have a lot of military here. So it was never uncommon to see mixed families. So, but I know a lot of people, for them, that was just kind of, what's this all about? For me, I don't think so. I don't know about Jack. I mean, I'm just kind of, used to it. I don't think anything of it. You're with someone, you have kids, you're a family. But I mean, I don't know, Jack. I mean, is that something you were thinking about when we did this?
No, I'm not sure if you had come back, but I was mentioning that there was an episode called Cardassians, which dealt with the children.
That's where I dropped out. I had a power surge here. But, actually, it's more like the Nazi Germany thing. It's where a lot of the Germans, in Sweden or any of the where they occupied, those children were outcasts, you know. And just from my history, or I'm an ABBA freak. I love ABBA, but
Nice. Very
Anna
nice.
Frida, she's actually a product of that union. And I read a lot of their stuff, and you know how it's not always easy. It wasn't easy for those children either, or you know the children from Vietnam that were left behind from our soldiers. You know, those kids did not have it easy. Neither culture accepted them. So it's kind of, you know, similar with you would expect with the Kardashians and the Bajorans. Neither side's going to accept them.
Well, now I'm going to take a chance here. That's an ABBA reference, by the way, for you, Toni. Take a chance. I don't know. It's a good song. I like it. I'm going to say I completely thought the exact same thing you thought, Cirroc. Like I thought that was like deliberate. You know, it's amazing that there are definitely different instances of that all, you know, throughout our history. You know, you're talking about Nazi Germany and all that. But, you know, to me and to Cirroc, the first thing that came to mind was almost like the most obvious, you know, answer to us, I would think. And it also led me to think that it would be really tough. There was a scene where Dukat says, you know, she said, Kira says, "Oh, so Dukat, she was your lover." He says, "Oh, more than just a lover. We were in love." And I would have expected Major Kira to say, "You guys were not in love. You owned her." So, you know, for two reasons. Number one, she hates him and she hates Cardassians, and she thinks you're not capable of love. You're not capable of love, which is why you treated him this way. And on the other side of that, she would think no Cardassian would love you. You were her slave master. She did not love you. Bite your tongue. She was just doing that to try to have a better life and to not get killed or something like that, you know? So that was interesting. They didn't, you know, the script didn't go in that direction because you can't fit all of this extra stuff in a 40-minute episode. But that was something that kind of my mind went off on. I don't know if any of you guys kind of picked up on those couple lines there.
I remember the lines, but I didn't think that, because that's one thing I like about Gul Dukat is, yes, he's a villain, but there are so many layers to him. He's just not that caricature. There's nothing good in him. Because to me, that's not a real villain. It's not a real person. And that's why I like this. It explores that, yes, he's not a good person, but there is some type of goodness in him. There is something there. You know, you may not like it or agree with it, but it is there.
Yeah, and also I want to say that's a testament to the good writing that you guys were doing, because it inspires these kinds of tangential thoughts that make you, you know, play things out in your head in different ways, different sequences. That wasn't your intention, but yet it did kind of provoke me to think about, you know, I mean, George Washington and whatever slaves he had, or whatever it was in the past. But so those thoughts started to fire off. I also started to think, what would the conversation be like when Gul Dukat shows up with his
Yeah.
Like, good luck with that one, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would have, as a woman here and a wife, that would not have gone over well.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, she's like, who's that behind you? Oh, her. That's just my daughter.
And the thing is, I think if he just brought home a Cardassian, plain Cardassian, she would have, I think, accepted. She wouldn't have liked it, but she would have accepted that. It's the fact that it was half Bajoran. No, never.
Yeah.
Now,
that was great.
Toni, you also mentioned saying like how you guys like to put two characters together, kind of like an odd couple where the conflict is inherent in the scene. And, you know, it is said in writing that every single scene must have conflict. Otherwise, cut it out of your script. So putting two characters together must make it so much fun, because, you know, that don't like each other, because now the conflict is already there. And now you get to just play with, okay, so what happens with the conflict? Where do we go from here, you know?
Well, that, and plus, you know, even when there's conflict, you can't help but look at Kira and Goldicott. There's so many similarities to them.
Mm.
So, I mean, I honestly thought at some point they might actually put them together. But, you know, I think, though, Kira's hatred for him was so beyond that, there's no way. I think Goldicott would have went for it, but not Kira.
Totally.
Yeah, we saw that in the documentary a little bit. They touched on that, and it didn't go over well in the Naz's mind.
What do you think, Jack? Would you have wanted to see Goldicott and Major Kira get it on? That was a Chris Farley reference.
No, but we could make them think they were going to get it on. There was a scene, and I think it was, I want to say the Maquis, where Goldicott takes over. Captain Sisko is talking to some freight commander, and they went aboard the ship. They went aboard his ship, and you know, Captain Sisko is trying to be very diplomatic and stuff. And Dukat, they're in a runabout, and Dukat gets up and leans across behind Sisko's shoulder and tells this guy off, and he gives him like a countdown, and he's going to blast him out of the sky. And the guy says, "Stop counting." And then he looked at Sisko and says, I'll leave the rest to you. And then he sat down, and Kira was looking at him. And the way she was looking at him, there was admiration for him being able to take control of that situation and get what he wanted done immediately. And that was a scene that I thought, you know, she hates him, but she admires him at the same time. So she's kind of in conflict with herself. So you've met people like that. You can't stand them, but there's something about them you
respect. You respect some of it. Maybe not admire, but respect.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think, Tony, you mentioned that earlier, and you actually called out that the fact that you think Kira and Dukat are very similar in a lot of ways, and I think that showed in this episode because they both were attached personally to this, you know, this Ravenok ship, but they were both seeking personal things, but they've also both been in the military, you know, fighting and believe in their ideals to, you know, where they were both expressing how they believe in their ideals at some point in this episode. So I do think that that's an accurate assessment, that there's a lot of similarities between the two of them.
Good point. I never really considered that, or maybe we mentioned it once or twice in the past, but I never really thought how deeply that goes, because they came at things from two different perspectives. You know, Kira was the underdog and he was the oppressor. And so they have very similar personalities in a lot of ways, but they grew up in two completely different lives for that, for those personality types to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was also another moment in this episode where, you know, Jack, you mentioned that Kira looked at Dukat in that moment in Marquis, I think it was, but the way she looked at him, I felt like the opposite was true in this episode. The way that Dukat looked at Kira when Kira said, I already got the command codes from Bajoran intelligence.
Yes.
Right? And there was a look where he was kind of impressed. He was like, wow, this girl's good. I like her.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little more on the other side. We're going to take a quick break. But before we do want to give a quick shout out to our friend, Mr. Bill Erickson. He's out in our YouTube chats always as War Dog Heim. He's doing something for Movember where he's raising funds for men's health. His goal is $1,000. He's currently at $345. We'll include the link in the description box below. He says, my personal motivation is that men don't talk about this kind of thing without prompting. I like to start a conversation, and this is a great reason to reach out. Globally, 1.4 million men are diagnosed with prostate cancer each year. Movember is working to have that number of deaths from prostate cancer by 2030, and I want to help them get there. Help me stop men dying too young. So definitely check out the link below, see if we can get that goal up to $1,000 for a good cause. And we're going to take a super quick break. We'll be right back on the seventh rule.